Hello everyone, good evening. My name is Satyajeet. We are going to discuss today one question from UPSC 2023 Mains Indian Society GS Paper 1. The topic I'm going to discuss today is the topic which has been asked frequently by UPSC in its mains. This topic is called as family and marriage institution, and likewise the caste is also another topic, one of the most favorite topics of UPSC, I must say. Firstly, we will read the question what they have asked in this year's mains. Do you think marriage as a sacramental bond is losing its value in modern India? Okay, just we'll read the question once again and we'll try to understand what they are trying to ask. Do you think marriage as a sacramental bond is losing its value in modern India? This question is very relevant in the contemporary India, especially the Indian society and culture. Day by day, we are observing that we are moving from the traditional forms of marriage and we are becoming more modernized. And the forces of modernization and urbanization and globalization, they are actually impacting our ideas about marriage, family, and kinship. And Indian culture has regarded marriage as a very important and sacramental value, a pavitra rishta, which is for the not only for generations, it's actually for seven lives. Okay, the bond is sacramental, and the bond is actually fixed by determined by the God itself, and that's how the Indian culture, especially Hindu culture, has regarded marriage as a duty and sacramental bond. Have you heard about that word ashram avastha, ashram vyavastha? In that, grihasthashram is very important duty of any mankind who belongs to Hindu religion, and that's how in our ancient scriptures, literature, marriage institution is given very important institution. I mean, it's a very important position, very important status, as the marriage institution is the starting point of any other social institutions like family, judiciary, like state, economy, and any other. That's how. But nowadays we are observing some changes in the thinking, changes in the ideas about the marriage institution. And just now, when I am recording this video, Supreme Court has just given some judgment about homosexuality and homosexual marriages, and Supreme Court has rejected the same-sex marriage as it cannot make laws. So the marriage institution is again a relevant institution in the news, it's frequently been asked, and UPSC also focuses on this. Though these important social institutions like marriage, caste, and family, so we must focus on these questions, these institutions, and we must prepare these institutions in advance. What question actually expects from your side? The question expects you have to compare, or you have to just analyze how the mindsets about the marriage institution, how the thinking about marriage institutions have been changing in the recent past, and what are the factors responsible for that change. Let's say, for example, we are observing as the marriage was considered as sacramental bond, as a ritual, and we perform that marriage ritual in front of the complete society. They are evident on the complete society, and we promise each other, the partners promise each other by let's say in the sakshi, devala sakshi घेऊन. So basically, the promises are made, the sacramental bond, the promises have been given very important religious position. But nowadays we are observing some changes, and what are the causes for these changes in the mindset? The question is demanding from your side. So let's talk about that. Firstly, as an introduction, basically the focus about this question is nothing but, is the marriage institution losing its importance or losing its identity as a sacramental bond? You have to argue in that favor. Are there any evidences of its loss of identity as a sacramental bond, a sacramental institution? You have to argue in that way. But before that, we must focus on how to introduce. Introduction can be a very simple introduction. A marriage, you can define marriage as a social institution. You can give some characteristics of marriage institution, or you can give the idea of grihastha or even our Hindu literature, the ancient Indian literature, and evidences from that, and how marriage was considered as sacramental bond. That can be an introduction. But as a simple introduction, marriage as a sacramental bond is modern India has undergone significant transformation, and its perceived value has evolved. A change has been observed can be a simple introduction. And additionally, the extended introduction, I have added one more point here. Traditionally, marriage was regarded as a sacred and unbreakable union, right? Sacred and unbreakable union, deeply rooted in religious and cultural values of India, and Indian religion, Indian culture, Indian institutions and traditions. They do not allow for break of that bond, and that's how the marriage are considered as the bond fixed itself by the God, right? However, in contemporary India, several factors have contributed to shift in this phenomenon. So we will talk about what factors are there and how changes we are observing in marriage institution and how the marriage is losing its value as a sacramental bond. Okay, changes in social norms, and we are observing the personal happiness and individualism is on rise. The main factors behind these changes is nothing but the three important modernizing forces: urbanization, globalization, westernization, and additionally, modernization as a force. So, westernization, urbanization, and globalization are these forces which has changed the thinking, ideas, values of Indian society, and those values and ideas have changed from the collectivity to individualism, traditions to modernity, and likewise we are focusing on our personal happiness, personal values, and personal ethics, and not as a societal ethics, and that's how the marriage is being reduced to just a mere institution, not as a sacramental bond. So, changing social norms we are observing there, it's not a matter of fulfillment; it's matter of choice now. Okay. Secondly, the legal changes, the divorce rate. We are observing that the divorce rates are increasing, and the important reason behind that is the legislations, the Special Marriage Act, Hindu Marriage Act, and etc., which allows for legal divorces. The marital breakdowns can be converted into divorces with very ease process, and the judiciary and our laws in the parliament, they actually give importance to these personal freedoms, liberty, personal choices, and etc., and that's how the break in the bond is possible with the help of legal provisions just like divorce. Okay, and that's how we are observing that the stigma is being reduced attached to the divorces. Earlier it was looked upon ki divorcee and all, but the society is now accepting the divorces and the couples out of divorces, right? So legal changes are there. Secondly, economic independence we're observing day by day because of various efforts of education and employment by the government of India. Women are becoming more and more independent in many sectors, and that is giving huge impetus to their autonomy, their independence, their individual personality and liberty, and that's how they are choosing not to marry even, or even marry at their own choice. The compatibility is very important factor again, and that's how we can say economic independence is of especially of a woman is making them self-reliant, and they are not dependent on any other partner, and that's how the number of marriages out of that compulsion of dependence is reducing. So we are observing that economic independence, as it is increasing, the sacramental nature is reducing. Rather than a sacramental bond or something, the couple will firstly watch for their compatibility, and then they will fix their marriage. So economic independence is another area because of which we are observing the reduction in the sacramental value of the marriage institution. Interfaith and intercaste marriages are on rise because of various legislations, and the government of India is democratic government where we do not allow such discriminations, we do not allow such inequalities, and day by day, as I'm currently in India, the intercaste marriages, if I'm not wrong, it's 11% of total marriages are intercaste marriages, and that number is rising. 11% intercaste marriages is still a significant number, and this number will rise in the near future, and that's how we can say the by breaking the barriers of caste and religion, the marriages are happening, and that's how somewhere the liberty, love, equality, companionship, these values are becoming more important than sacramental values, right? So equality, compatibility are being considered as the foundational values of any marriage nowadays than the sacramental bond, right? And because of this, interfaith and intercaste marriages, and of course I would like to one more point to this point also, love marriages are on rise, and as love marriages on rise, love marriage do not consider marriage as a sacramental bond, rather consider marriage as a bond out of love, equality, respect, and etc., and compatibility. That's how the marriages are on, let's say, decline in its sacramental value, we must say. But have you noticed that despite losing its sacramental bond, sacramental value, marriage as an institution is still dominant. Marriage as an institution is still important in society because it has some important functions to play in society. It plays the function of economic cooperation, it plays the function of sexual gratification, it plays the function of love, bond, companionship, and interdependence, right? So marriage is going to stay in Indian society for long. And yes, of course, we can argue ki is its sacramental value is declining or what. There can be differences in the opinion, but marriage institution is going to become or is still of course, observed as a dominant institution in society beyond the institutions like religion and family. So I must say, however, it's essential to note that while the perception of marriage is evolving, right? So marriage, the thinking about marriage system is evolving. We are thinking about sologamy. We are thinking about, let's say, live-in relationship. There are many alternatives are evolving. We're thinking about same-sex marriages and etc. And many Indians still hold a sacred institution of marriage, and day by day we are also observing that the sacred nature of the religion, it's still intact, right? So it continues to be an important part of Indian culture and society. Ultimately, whether marriage's sacramental value is diminishing or not varies across the individual. So in regions, and also we may agree or disagree, the sacramental value is declining, but its relevance as an institution, its importance as an institution, its functions as an institution are still important. And that's how we may say in some areas, in some phases, in some localities, we observe, in some regions, we observe the decline in the sacramental nature of the marriage as an institution, but its some forms, some regions, some traditions, and some cultures are still intact and still attached to the sacramental nature of the marriage. Okay. On this note, I would like to conclude this question, and we are going to discuss one more question from UPSC Mains 2023 in the next session. Till then, thank you very much.